Good evening. It is very much evening. It's 10 o'clock at night. Um, as I said, I came back for a second bout. Now, this will not be the longest bout, but to give you an idea, I know that technically I stopped streaming a good few hours ago, and I've always moaned to you about my terrible internet. Well, it's still uploading it. For goodness sake, so it's not going to help the quality of this stream, I'm sure, or the speed of its upload, a bit of both, but really, how can we not manage to upload a video in that time? The world needs to come up with something better, and the bit that's quite scary is that the government of the UK feel that a 2 meg link is plenty. No, loves. No, it's not. Technically I've got 8 meg down, 20 up, but of that, they only guarantee me 35 up, and I think it's 6 down. I get slightly more than that usually. Sometimes I don't, but, dude, I almost would be happy with 80/20, but frankly, I want a gig. I just really do. Because, I want to download some stuff. I want to be able to do more than one thing at once. Hang on. That's not what I typed, thank you. Right. So, let me see. Let's see where we're at. So, let me unpile the cloths. There we go. As I said, not going to be the longest stream, but I do hope that some of our, maybe we can meet some new friends who are not usually around when I stream. So that maybe they've been wanting to but didn't have the chance. Plus it's the weekend, it's the one time I can afford to stay up stupid late. So, let's have a quick look. We don't need you for a minute. We will want you for the next bit, and we want you. So, there we go. That looks a lot. Alright. You need to come off. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we need to gain 1. Go over there a bit more. Right. I have not had a chance to fill up Hedgie. I've had a bit of a snooze. I've had some food. I'm still hungry. But I'm back. I did manage to kill a boss in Path of Exile, so I have done something. Well, I say useful with my time. I did achieve something. That boss has been annoying me for a bit. Either it would one-shot me or I would die, with somewhere less than 10% to go. And it would be like, I'd be doing really well, I'd be doing really well, it would be down to 10% and then, no. But I managed to survive this time, so. Which probably means I am so not ready for the next bit. For those who know anything about Path of Exile, I have not ascended yet, which, given that I am level 30 something, and basically as good as the end of Act 2, slacking somewhat. But I just find the ascendancy in Path of Exile 2 really weird. They give you fake points, which they do not explain to you that once you run out of these fake points, so you have your hit point, which obviously if you die, you die, right? But you also have these fake points, and you have honour and water. And if you run out of water, it's over. And you're like, but you lose water for being hit. Or when you're melee, of course you're going to get hit. So I'm not quite sure how anyone survives, but they do, so clearly I am stupid. That's fine. I'm prepared to accept that. But it is a bit of a frustration because, you know, I can't not be hit, you know. I've got reasonable stats. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't have got to where I am, but... I also find frustrating. I mean, it's the game. It's the same for everybody. So you know, you know, I'm not trying to pretend this is a woe is me story, but I do find it frustrating that you try and get resistances to things. So you try and get. They've got cold, fire, chaos, and lightning. Sorry, I had to think what the other one was. And you just about get to some semi-decent resists, and then when you go to the next act, bear in mind technically there will be 6 acts, they basically automatically remove a chunk of your resistances. So even though you still have, you know, gear with stats on saying, you know, I don't know, 15% chaos, well, you start the next level and yeah, well, we took 20 off. So now you've got -5. So it is a little bit frustrating because to have decent resists towards the end, you need so much. And I mean, people have managed it, so clearly it is possible, you know. The guy I often watch streaming, and in fact, technically he's on in the background here, he's always got, like, max res, and you're sitting there going, how? I can't even get max res, you know, with loads of, when I've, you know, qualityed everything, and I've done everything as much as I can, and I'm being really slow, I'm not rushing, unlike everyone else who seems to, you know, speed run through everything, and yet I still can't. So I clear out everything. I careful which gear I pick. You know, I've been really careful, and yet I still can't do it. So never mind. So yes, here we are for the second time of the day. Well, okay, welcome back. One of the things that I would say, obviously, is that, I disagree because obviously I am making the same squares over and over again, as indicated in the top right hand corner. But I am now on my 5th square, and I've got, I'm 3/4 of the way through it. So it should be the same kind of every time, which I do appreciate makes the most boring kind of. And I've. Fair enough. Well, it has grown, and this is, well, let's face it, for the number of hours I've been streaming it, it ought to have done. It is only a good thing that it has grown. So how are you? By the way, part of the reason I am streaming so late for me is so that people of other nations have a chance to watch. That's a fair enough thing. Sleepy is fine. I mean, it's 10 o'clock at night here. I know plenty of people who'd be in bed by now, and there's me starting a stream. So, yeah. But as I said, I'm doing the stream later. Well, I'm doing a later stream today, so that I give chance to people who are elsewhere in the world who may. Well, exactly. And so for people like you, it's 9 in the morning, right? And 9 in the morning is still arguably quite early to be getting up and watching someone stream. So, this is part of the reason I've done a late night one, is to give people, such as yourself, more of a chance to watch it. Because obviously, chances are, I generally stream while you would normally sleep. So, it is to give people such as yourself the chance to come along, because maybe you haven't been they haven't been able to, or I only ever stream when they're asleep or while they're at work, or and just have that bit more of an opportunity, because it is the weekend, and I can stay up later. I'm an adult, I can do that. But Saturdays are the good Friday nights and Saturdays are the good days for that. But yesterday was not a good day for me. I was not in the best frame of mind, and unlike knitting and crochet, you don't tend to suffer so much from tension, but you do make real dumb mistakes. And like all dumb mistakes in crafting, undoing and redoing your work is not how to cheer up a crafter. So if you can avoid working when you're not really in the mood for it, and avoid making dumb mistakes that you're going to regret later, it is worth avoiding. So I only did a bit yesterday. But here I am today, partly trying to make up for it, but also, I've mentioned it a few times that I will try and do some later ones on Saturdays, just so that to reach more people who, in case they wish to be reached, And that's exactly the thing, is that sometimes, despite your best endeavours, you can't count to 10 without screwing it up. You can't, it just seems that, someone's taken all your faculties away from you, and you've turned into a total mung bean, and you just can't do anything without screwing it up. And there are times when that is when really you should just put it all down and go, I'm going to stare at the wall, because I'm a danger to myself. I'm going to, if I do anything other than stare at the wall, it's going to go wrong. The worst problem is when you've got to go to work in that state, and you're like, if you make me do stuff, it's on your own heads, Because you can't really phone up to work. Hi, boss, not coming in today. Everything I'm touching goes wrong, so you don't want me in the office because, frankly, all of the servers will explode if I so much as log in. You just don't need me. I'm a danger to you all. Because they go, no, you've got to come in. So you log in, all the servers fall over, and you go, great, it's going to be a lovely day. And anyone who says, oh, it doesn't work like that, yeah, it does. They know. They see weakness. They know. Right, Hedgie is empty. Poor Hedgie. Naked is Hedgie. Poor little Hedgie Hedge. Look at him. He's all empty. Right. Back to the pin pot, which is also looking a tad sorry for itself. One thing we did change since you came back, since you were here last, was that due to not mistakes necessarily, avoidable issues possibly, but not technically mistakes. So previously I was pulling all these pins out instead of pushing them down, because if I zoom in, hang on, if I zoom in, you can see here, if I go up a bit, that instead of pulling all these pins out, I've pushed them down. The reason for this is fairly simple. On the last square, I was doing really well. I was really proud of it. It was, you know, the number of mistakes were low. I'd been making reasonably quick progress through it. I was feeling real positive. Till I sewed it all together, so the join will be the equivalent of this line here, because, well, that's the front, so this is the join. And I noticed that when I'd started this bit here, the rose ground section over here, well, I have to, otherwise, well, I can't get it off the piece of paper, can I? So yeah, these pins are going to be evil to get out afterwards, because they're hard enough to do when you do it as you go along and just leave like the edge. Now in the last one I'd left 3 rows of pin on the side, so if you look here, I'd left like the equivalent of the first 3 rows of these pins in when I turned the corner. Turned the corner, worked all the way down, didn't think much of it, you know, did the next triangle, got to the bottom, hallelujah, sewed all the ends in, tried not to cry because it's not a skill I'm good at. Took it off, took a picture of it, was really, really proud of myself, and then noticed that one of the lines of rose ground here had squished, almost flat. Yeah. I can prove that when I finished the triangle, exactly, right? I could prove that, you know, as I turned the corner, that when I'd finished the square, because obviously, as you know, I take photos of everything, it was fine. So I hadn't messed it up, I hadn't missed a bit, I hadn't got it wrong, it was fine. But because I then covered it up, and I worked this bit, I had not seen it distort under the piece of cloth. So hence, this time round, I'm leaving all the freaking pins in, because, yeah, move now. Right? Yeah, try moving now, you know. So, but it does make it a tad pin heavy. The amount of pins used are excessive, because obviously all of these pins, all of them, every single pin is still in here, which... Oh, darling, you have no idea. It was quite fortunate that before I'd actually made that decision, you're right, I bought more pins. Now, what is slightly disappointing is that this pot of pins, technically, has mixed pins in it. As in, they're not all the same size. Now, they're pretty much all the same size. I mean, there are some slightly fatter ones and some you know, there's basically, I think, 2 sizes. I think there's fatter, well, there might be 3, but there's a taller, skinnier one, there's a shorter one, which I think is a slightly fatter one, and a kind of medium in the middle kind of pin. However, I will be back. Hang on one moment. Let me wander about 2 meters to my left and grab 2 objects. So, being me, I do tend to overkill purchases. So, like my bobbins, not these bobbins, I've got some new bobbins. Hang on, let me show you some new bobbins. So, I bought these bobbins. Now, these bobbins are much like normal Midlands bobbins, but they're a bit longer and a bit beefier. But they're made of a wood that is naturally a bit heavier. So, for example, if I pick up these, so do I, but if I pick up these on a stick, so there's 10 bobbins on a stick, if I pick up about 4 of the other bobbins, they weigh as much, okay? So they are heavier. Plus, you also get more bobbins on a stick. They're also flatter because they're rounder. But I bought 150 of them to see if I liked them, because you need a reasonable amount to do a project. And I decided I liked them a lot, so I ordered 750. And when I got them, which was this week, which was really pleasing because I originally ordered those new ones last year. Yeah, as I said, I kind of overbuy, right? But I have a plan at one point to make a net curtain in one piece. Well, I'm going to need, frankly, a shit ton of bobbins. So now I have a shit ton of bobbins. Now, one thing I did notice, and I mean, because it's shiny, you can't really tell. But if I plonk these down, there seem to be 52, because watch, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 4, 6, 8, 10. I made it 11 this time, but I think I managed to miss one. So there seems to be 52 in a pack. Well, you get 3 packs for 150, so that technically means I got 6 more. Well, considering that I bought 150, so that's, well, I bought 5 packs, so that's 15. That's 15 packs. 2 each of those is 30. I had 6 from the previous ones. Technically, I probably got 936 for the cost of 900. But they came with, so the first time round, they came with these 2. Now, these 2 are resin or 3D printed, and this one's transparent with glittery bits in, and this one's obviously a plain colour. And they are similar size to the wooden ones, but they are shiny, so I'm not so sure that they would be my favourite, if you know what I mean. But I always wondered whether I would like them, because I'd seen them, you know, as you do, and you go, I wonder what they're like. Because I am a bit of a... I've decided that the best way to explain it is I suffer from Pokemon. Gotta catch them all. Right? I've got to try them all. This time round, they came with 2 more. Now, what doesn't show up on camera is just how neon this orange one is. It is glowing. If this was a cartoon, it's toxic. It's going to poison you at 20 feet, right? But it's also glittery. So now I've got 4 of those. But they also sent me these. Now, I'm glad I didn't buy like 900 of these, but I do like these, but you'll understand more when I show you. They sent me basically the same wood, same size. I don't like the grooves in it too much because it feels funny, but they've got little coloured beads on. Look, you can just see them through the plastic. So there's different coloured beads on all of them. So for, like I've got here, I've got pale ones for my worker threads. I've now got 12 more bobbins that, for my money, that allow me to highlight certain things. They do. So I'm feeling really pleased with my purchase because, well, obviously I got freebies. But I also got appropriate freebies. Now, I will say to you, the cost of the 750 was considerable, but I'm also confused. So here in England, we have when you buy things abroad, you have to pay import tax. Import tax is generally 40%. So I was expecting a colossal bill. When I bought the 150, the price including shipping was £106, and I had a bill, I think it was £38. And that included Royal Mail's £11 fee plus the import tax, which was about right. So when buying 750 of them, you're kind of sitting there bracing for the moment that you get the bill. Well, they sent them UPS because, frankly, it took a month for them to come last time. And it was 50-something quid. Now, the actual cost, including shipping, was like £418 or something. So it was 4 times the cost, but not 4 times the import tax. So something was definitely different. And believe me, once again, excessively happy about that, because it meant it was a lot cheaper than I was expecting. And we like it when things don't cost as much, because this day and age, that don't happen very often. So not only did I get more bobbins for my money, and the box weighs a stink. I kid you not. The look on the guy's face about how it was like carrying a box of lead, right? Well, exactly. I am not complaining. I am very happy. Glowing, glowing, glowing happiness. So, following on from the pin conversation, Liz decided to order some pins. Now, one came in a great box, one did not. Let me show you the knot first. So, 500 grams of fat pins. These are fatter than the ones that I normally use, and it's just a skanky, manky cardboard box that, if I do this, you can see it's going to fall apart because the end comes out, and it's just a shitty box, right? But I have 500 grams of 0.6mm pins. I also ordered 500 grams of 0.5mm pins, for which some of these truly are. These came in a glorious box. It came in this beautiful plastic box, and it has a really good lid on it. And so I've basically got a kilo of pins, compared to my little tin that I put together. So I have more pins. I just really, really, really wanted not to mix the new pins. Well, exactly. And this is why I don't want to mix those with these. So what I think I'm going to do is mix these with those, because these have got a shitty box anyway. And so I'm less emotionally attached to them already, you know. Meh. So I think that's going to be my plan, because this is a glorious box. I want more of these, but I want another of these boxes. But they don't sell the boxes. In fact, the only way to get more of these is to buy more pins. What you don't want to know is this box of slightly fat pins was £31. That's a lot for a lot of pins. This box was £51. Now, I know it comes in a plastic box, but it's because that's a popular size. But I really like the box. I like the fact that this is permanently painted on the top. It's got, the size of it and everything. So this is an awesome box. Dead happy with the box. The cardboard box, not so much, because that's going to die in a week, really. Can you imagine if you were using that as your dipping in and out of box? Well, I get attached to... I am a messy cow, right? If you could see over there, you would understand that not cleanliness, because that's not true. Tidiness is not a virtue I possess, right? I am the messiest, laziest person you will ever meet. Did I tidy my house at all today? Hell no. Should I have tidied my house today? Of course. Should I have tidied my house at any point in the last 6 years? Yes. Did I? Not really, no. So I am not a tidy person. I live alone. No one to annoy me, right? So, with all of that in mind, it's kind of odd, but there are things I am drawn to, things like that box, because it keeps them tidy. Now, that seems really odd considering what a messy cow I am. But the truth is that it's going to be easier to keep these pins together forever and ever until my demise, because frankly this will outlive me, than these ones, which probably by the end of the month, I mean, it already looks dog-eared and I haven't even started on it yet. I mean, obviously if I painted it with glue and, you know, put some stuff on it, but, you know. Yeah. I'm going to assume you're in adverts for now. If you're not in adverts, you can tell me, and we can keep the conversation going while there are adverts. I assume you're back from ads now. As far as I know, I don't have ADHD, but I do have very many commonalities with those problems. I'm definitely a squirrel, and whatever I was doing is long since forgotten. I have good intentions and never get around to any of them. But I do suffer from chronic depression, and as chronic depression, it's going to sound really stupid, but I am the opposite to the rest of the world. Tidying up makes me so miserable. I mean, utterly soul destroyed, miserable. I mean, to be honest, tidying up hurts more than losing my dad did, ever, right? And I can't explain it. I just can't tidy up. I just can't. I almost have to trick myself into tidying up. So as a result, I generally don't. And I'm very good at making piles of things, and they get a little out of hand. And I mean, that one is epic. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I did manage to do a little bit to it a few weeks ago. I emptied 2 rubbish bags. They weren't, when I say rubbish bags, it's things like plastic packaging. It's stuff, it's not unclean, it's just a big pile of crap. And I refer to all my stuff as shit, so, you know, a pile of crap is really does not discern, but it's not like food stuff, it's not unclean, it's just packaging, it's things I needed to move and never did, things that were disappointing. So somewhere at the back, I say somewhere at the back because I can't see it from here, I bought a thing to store my cotton reels in, because obviously I get through a lot of cotton with this. It was too small. The cotton reels that I use are too big for it, so I yeeted it across the top of this thing. And that's what happens is, I do things, I get like an Amazon out envelope and I just fling, and it joins the pile in the corner. So it's untidy, it's unnecessary, and I do refer to it as my shit pile. And a lot of people go, oh, well, if you call it a shit pile, you know it's bad. No, I call my stuff shit. So there's stuff in there that I want. I mean, from here, I can see a package of long zing knitting needles, because that's in a box of stuff I want to keep. It's at the bottom of the pile, and it's kind of poking out, so I could get it if I want. But right now, it's kind of a cornerstone pillar part of the pile, because if I pulled it out, I'd probably be trapped underneath the rest of the pile. So there's also a table, a chair, a set of tables. It's a big pile. To be honest, I've always said I am a bit of a klepto. I hoard. I mean, I mentioned earlier that my Pokemon effect with bobbins, got to have them all, right? I have the same problem with notebooks. Got to have all the notebooks. I'm dyslexic. If you see my handwriting, a doctor would be proud, right? But I really like notebooks. I then don't necessarily use them, but I want them all, right? And so I do have hoarding tendencies, for sure. I'm never going to deny that I don't. I've got an old house full of shit. Of course I've got hoarding tendencies. And my old house really does look like a hoarder's dream. This house, not so much. It's mainly just the corner of my room over there. Everywhere else is cluttered, but it's kind of cluttered. That is hoarders. That corner of the room it's about a quarter of the room, I should point out, but it is hoarders, right? And if you were to turn up on my door and want to come in, I would be ashamed of it, because I know that other people couldn't live with it. The problem is it doesn't bother me. Mess does not bother me at all, because I still know where everything is. And that becomes the problem. If you know where everything is, it doesn't matter what it looks like to everybody else, it's not a problem. And of course, if it's not a problem, you don't tend to fix it. And that is where my problem truly lies, is that it's not that, because it doesn't cause me any problems, I have no reason to improve it. Because it doesn't cause me any problems, and there's no one living with me going, for fuck's sake, woman, can you tidy this shit up? To be fair, when I was married, they were no better than me, so, but it was better because I felt bad because there was someone else who it would affect. Well, I now live on my own, and the dogs don't care, and nor do I, so whatevs, right? So on the scale of important things to do, it just never gets near enough the top to have anything done about it. And you see that, and to be honest, that's exactly it. If, you're not finding ants and rats and cockroaches and mould and, you're not going to catch something from it. I mean, I appreciate that, many other people would not want to live as I do. But that's great. You don't live here, so worry not, right? It is a little bit of the, well, that's fine, you don't live here. So, if you come visiting, feel free to scowl at it. But I live here and it doesn't bother me. Now, obviously, for example, should my gran, were she alive, to be coming to visit, I would be in pieces because, well, my grans are always sacred in this respect. And that they are judging you. And so, it would be excessively stressful because I wouldn't really be able to clean it, but I also know my gran would be appalled. So, but then I was always a disappointment to my parents, so one more disappointment won't kill them. Not quite the right attitude, Kimber, but, it's a healthy one. I'm not going to beat myself up unnecessarily. And I've explained that about things with crafting as well, is that your crafting potentially will have mistakes in it. You know what? That's fine. There are some mistakes that, if I noticed, for example, that this bit, which I could easily fix, had a big mistake in it, well, of course I'd undo it and fix it. But if I suddenly spotted one here, I am not going that far back. So now you just have to go, well, that's really disappointing, and move on. And because if you try to be too perfectionist about it, you'll never finish. Because by the time you've undone all of that, you'll be in such a mood, because it's a long way back. You then come to redo it, to do it right. Well, now if you make a new mistake, which, percentage chances say you probably will, well, then you'll get to the end and spot a different mistake. Well, are you really going to go back another time and another time and another time and another time? And, the never-ending triangle. You sometimes have to go, I know there will be mistakes. I know that it will be disappointing because I'm trying not to, after all. But I accept that if I haven't seen it or worked out that there's a mistake as I went, so like earlier, I spotted I had a mistake, I had to go back and do a bit. I did the same yesterday, I spotted I made a mistake and had to go back and do a bit. But it's going back and doing a bit. So, for example, if, as we go along this bit, I discover I forgot to throw a pear out at one point, I will go back and do a bit because, well, A, it's the last bit I did, so it's the only bit I've got to undo, and I've only got to undo back as far as the botch, and usually, of course, it's nearer the beginning than the end, because Murphy's Law applies. But if I found it back here where I would have to undo so many other bits, no. Much as I said previously, if I've got to the point of pulling the pin out, I'm not going back that far. Well, the problem is like this, an awful lot of the mistakes aren't visible till you take the pins out. So when I finally unpin this thing, I'm probably going to want to have a sob quietly in the corner because all these mistakes are going to appear. And like the squished bit, yes, there won't be any of those. Great, but there can still be plenty of others. I mean, it's just the way it is. And we've all, you all do something and wonder how you miss it, right? You've all, if you've knitted, there are times when you've completely fumbled something, forgot to do something 10 rows back, and you look at it and go, but once you've seen it, it stands out like a sore thumb, and you're like, how did I miss that? The answer, of course, was easily. But somehow, now you've seen it, you could see this thing from space and you're not happy with it. But of course, the other problem is somebody else might not. Now, if I lift up my other pillow a second and grab my tin of finished squares. I can show you what I mean. So, let me put this down so that you can see it a bit more clearly. This is my last square. And here is the joining line. And here, if you look at these rose grounds, all of the rose grounds, all the other corners, kept their shape, especially this one. This one's fucking spectacular. You know, these ones are all absolutely perfect. They look great. These ones, you know, because I knew I had problems at the start and the finish on a previous one. These ones, it all looks great. The join looks a bit manky, but you look here. These rose grounds are so squished. And yet, at the time, because you work this way round, so what happened was, is as I turned this corner here to start down this triangle, I had 3 rows of pins. 1, 2, 3. The top parts must have shrunk down on top of it. I needed more than 3 rows. But I didn't need more than 3 rows for anything else. In fact, the reason I put 3 rows in there was previously it was the bottom row that squished. So I put 3 rows in because there's quite a lot of stitches between the, you know, there and 3 rows up. Wasn't enough. And it's stuff like that that clearly is a little disappointing because you're sitting there. Well, the problem is once... Well, exactly, especially as the maker, because you know it's there, you will always go, where's the square with? There it is. And that's how your brain would look at it every day. It would go, where's the square with the fucked up one of those? There it is. Where's the square with the fucked up one of those? There it is. Where's the square? And that's how you see your work. And I wish, as a maker, you could see your work as other do. Because, I mean, this square took nearly a month to make, right? And the one thing that you have to argue is that if I keep making squares till they're perfect, I'm going to be 922 years old, right? So that's not a thing, right? And again, if you keep on doing it, it's the never-ending square, right? So each one of my squares, so I am keeping them in order, has an issue of its own. Now, in this one, the rose grounds came out fairly even, but again, there's a squished line. There's the end point. So instead of it being opposite, like on the last one, it's there. I've managed to squish them. There are many other errors, but the squishy factor is a common one that I am trying to combat because the other errors are a lot more subtle. So here, as you can see on the join, this row of rose ground here, frankly, disappeared. It's become more like a smudge line. So instead of having 4 rose grounds, it looks like there's 3 in a thick line. But the rest didn't turn out too bad. Hence, this squished thing has been on my mind. Now, in this one, it's squished here again, which is diagonally opposite. This one's a little squished, so it is a common problem. And this one's, you know, these ones don't look too bad, except for this one here looks all squished. So they all had squished, right? And so in trying to combat the squish, we are going to leave all the pins in. For this is the way of me trying to combat it. But it is that frustration of almost no matter how hard you tried, even though you technically made no direct mistakes. So it's not like I skipped, it's not like I forgot a row of knitting pattern, it's not like I forgot to change the colour, it's not an actual mistake. It's a mistake born of tensioning to make sure that the bit you're working on's right and not noticing that somewhere under the cloth threads are moving. And when you watch a lot of lace makers, they steal pins from the back. They only leave 3 or 4 rows of pins, and they're stealing the pins for the work that they're doing. Well, I've already proved to myself that depending on the stitch you're doing, that's a bad thing, right? So I guess it's just one of those parts for me is that we all try to get it right. We all try to produce the right work. We all want it to be right. We don't want it to be wrong. We're not, we're not deliberately making mistakes. We are human and mistakes will happen. So see, for example, here's a shorter pin and I know I've got some longer ones. I'm sure that, see, look, I'm not dreaming. Those pins are longer. Look, see, I can tell with my fingers, right? Sad ass. So these are chunkier ones. That's a thinner one. Now, I want you to sod off a little bit. So I'm going to grab one of my knobbly pins that I've hidden down the side here and put you in there so I've got a bit more space. Right. And we're going to work down here. So yeah, as I say, I accept that there are mistakes. Do I want them there? No. Am I trying to make sure I don't make them? Of course I am. But there are mistakes. Usually it's not twisting a pair, a change of stitch is the common issue. We've seen a few loose threads, so it's obviously got stuck around a pin and I didn't notice till you pull the pin out, and then of course you go, oh, shit. Or you've moved on and then you notice that there's like this funny looking bit and you have a look and it's a sticky up bit of thread that obviously got stuck on a pin behind, and you know, at the time of pulling the pin out you didn't really notice because you were busy pulling the pins out, and suddenly you now have this loop. It's a small loop, it's not like it's a colossal loop, but it's big enough, you know. So I've accepted that there will be mistakes, but at the same time, if I spot them and it's viable to fix them, I want to fix them, because I don't want to have mistakes in it, but at the same time, you know, the pain of going too far back is sufficient. So it is, earlier in the stream, so we had a stream earlier today, earlier we discussed the effort versus reward, because that is a big thing with crafting and with lots of things in life. So, you know, we all know that if you go to, the example I used earlier is if you go into your kitchen and you go and make a sandwich with some store-bought bread, and I'm not talking a bakery, I'm talking, you know, kind of in a plastic bag bread, right? You can make a perfectly nice sandwich and you will enjoy it. If you make the bread, which will take you a couple of hours more, yes, it will taste better. It will be better for you, but it takes 2-3 hours because you've got to allow for quite a long time for the yeast to rise and, you know, pounding away for kneading it for a while. And, you know, it takes a couple of hours, maybe a bit longer, depending on your yeast. Is the sandwich worth the 3 extra hours when all you do is go munch, 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 et sandwich, don't really remember eating it? The answer obviously is no. It is better for you. No one's going to say it's not better. You know, the bread will taste better. It'll be better for you. You'll have less crap in it unless you choose to put crap in it. But the truth is that for the extra 3 hours worth of your sandwich, isn't really significantly better or different if you don't really have the time to do it. Now, if you've got the time to do it and nothing better to do, great. And for example, there's a different way of joining the square up, and it does give a better finish. It really does. But it took me 4 hours to do this much. Well, then it's going to be like a week to do the whole square. No, the difference, yes, it is, if I was making it for the King or for the Louvre or someone was paying me £1 million to do it, darn tooting, I would do it that way but this is going on my window where only I am going to see it. And it's going to take me the best part of 18 months to make the bloody thing. I do not need to be adding, a few months worth of extra time on making a finish that I won't even really notice come the end of it. Because I have been knotting and gluing, which is... The knotting is traditional, the gluing is not. And I have bought some new glue. I bought different glue. This glue should be better, because this glue goes rubbery, rather than the super glue that goes hard and crunchy. But it is, the only reason I'm gluing it is because I don't have a lot of faith in knots, and I've demonstrated why I have very little faith in knots, because you have all these knots and it goes, oh, well, if you do this knot like this, it'll never come undone. And you go like that and it falls apart, and you're kind of going, yeah, it doesn't quite work that way all the time. I mean, I know how to do a weaver's knot, which is how to join two threads together in basically as seamless a manner as you can do while making a knot. Now, there's obviously some voodoo to it, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But in essence, you take two threads, put them together in your finger, wrap round twice and then under the thread, fold those ends in and pull. Sounds really simple. Well, it kind of is. Except for the fact that I'd say 80% of the time, you go like this and it just pulls apart. Even though you've tugged it down and snug, and it will just pull apart. Other times it's strong as a rock. Well, that's great. But if I've done this and it's taken me a month per square, so 18 months of square, I've then sewn it together, and because some tragedy has befallen it or whatever, I've now got to I'm not going to say wash it as in chuck it in a washing machine, although that would be nice. I'm talking just swilling it around in water to help clean it off in the most gentlest fashion known to man. If it falls apart, if that thing fell apart, can you imagine the tears after 18 months of effort? No, I'm gluing that thing. This thing is never going to come apart again. No, there will be glue. Just because I cannot face the idea of the tragedy. So yes, there will be glue. But I am changing the glue because I think slightly rubbery would be better. Because it is quite crunchy under the fingers. But then you don't grope your net curtains that often, so, But one thing that I did find the other day, I'd bought a load of patterns off eBay. And with the patterns came some of the items that those patterns make. Done by another lace maker who is now sadly departed. And she'd made a square. And she'd glued her square. And I felt so vindicated that it's not just me. That after all that effort, that damn thing's staying done. Because she glued it. And she just kept it in a folder. And she glued it. So I did feel somewhat... I didn't feel quite so traitorous for gluing my squares. But I did decide that a better glue might be in order. Because I realise, obviously, that gluing is not a traditional thing to do. But I would be so miserable if it fell apart. drinking. Oh, look. A spam bot. There we go. Reported spam bot. I've said this before. Part of me doesn't know whether I'm, to feel pleased or not, because obviously, if the spam bot comes, I mean, obviously, it has identified me as one worthy of wasting its life spamming me, because very shortly, I imagine, I will get an email from Twitch saying, hey, we actioned your report, and they are now gone. And so, it is one of their the last vestiges of a dying what's-it is to come and post on my channel, because I will report it. But they must feel that there was a chance they were going to get some value for money from it. And well, sorely disappointed is the short. Now, why one of you is not right? Yes, that's... Those two are the pair, not those two. Right. Let's poke you up there. You pop out of the way a minute. So part of me doesn't know whether to be honoured that they fancied their last dying wish to be to post in my channel and that they thought it was of value, or they're just really, really, really dumb. They have actioned my report. Spammer has gone. I mean... I love it. I wish as streamers we got points for all the spam bots we killed. Make a bit of a game of it, Come here, give me your bloop. Thank you. Oh, got a bit of backache. Sharp end. See? Hole in me. I'm good at finding pins, the sharp ends of pins, to be fair. I know what I meant to do. Bad me. One moment. I... I need to go into here and change the picture, because that's not the picture we want. We want change. That one. And to save it. What is slightly more surprising is that, given that it only actually kind of posted a couple of minutes ago on YouTube, it's already had 2 people look at it. Wow. It's a bit scary, but now it's got the right thumbnail, so that's a good thing. I should really do the right thing with it, so bear with me. No. Hang on. Bear with me while I do a quick thing. I do apologise. So let's poke this. I need picture. That one. And I need that one. And that doesn't seem right. That can't be right either. I suppose it is. It starts from the beginning, not from the end. But that doesn't feel... So that's that one. That one. Nah. This is what I do every time, which is why I end up staying up late, because I need to do this at the end, because I just need to do this at the end. Don't do that. Copy. Post. And here. And paste. And picture. And post. Right, that's that one. Right, there. That's all that sorted. It's a good thing. Otherwise I'd get confused later, so... but I've been waiting for it to finish to upload, and it hadn't finished uploading when I started the stream, but it's finished now. So... I could do that bit. I don't know quite why it hadn't done it. It said it only was going to take 2 hours, but kind of like 4 hours later it hadn't done it, so it obviously just took longer today. push down some pins. I'm going to use my finger to start with because, well, it's just a larger area. Where's my poking device? Where did my poking device go? You're around here somewhere. There you are. There we go. So that's you out and done and dusted. You all can sit over there and be in a pile because we're not going to touch you three again. Right. Till the next triangle, obviously. But we'll put you because we need you in a minute. You are the next bobbins of interest. I'm trying to remember when I take these off to take the elastic off, because one thing I've noticed is that quite a few of them are bending, despite being made of fairly good wood. I kind of almost need to take them off, and so I need to take this pin out and put you underneath it. Yeah, well, there's a hole in here somewhere. I know there is. There it is. Right. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. That means you as well. Right. You are technically out, but I like to see you. Twisty, twisty. Dry lips. Right. You're out. actually you need to go in there. So you need to wait one. One, three, one thread. Not two. Yes. You. This is what I mean by making mistakes. I don't see how that works, so we're going to go back and free its predecessor and have a better look. So, this doesn't quite look right. You and you. See, there's three. These three. And you. Something's not right with you. So, what we shall do is we shall grab you two, because you are part of this problem, potentially. Undo this, take that pin out, and you come out from you. And you go under, over, under, over, under, over. So, let's have a look. You two come out of there, which is right. You then go in there, and we pin that, and we do that. You then go in there, and we pin you, and we do that. So, you've got two, now you've got two. You are allowed to look a little wonky because you're here, and this pin is not entirely doing its job. So we'll lift you back up a sec, so that we can tension everybody. That looks far better. So you go back in here like this. You are at the bottom, you are next. You two then join this one. Pin. We now across you, and we go back this way. 1, 2. Move you out the way. 1, 2, 3.5. We need the other one of those. And the pin. Now can add you because we have two of you. You're getting longer because you're annoying. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're done. One, two, three. You're one too many because you came out. Doesn't feel like I've got the right number of bobbins, people. Actually it does, because you should have come out there, which leaves you two, which means you go in here. I do, I just, as always, brain farts. You come out, leaving 2 in the corner, which is the right number. Which gets pin. So, you are now done. I think the next thing is to go back up here. So that's 4, 5, and a stick for you. Five of you. Stick for you. Stick for you. You're out for the moment, and you need to be out and doing things. So you're a bit short. Let's make you a little longer, just because it helps. Right. You're done. And two of you. You're stuck behind there. There we go. I saw that. I saw that trying to escape. Bad bobbins. I must admit, one thing I'm particularly not entirely looking forward to is come the new square. I mean, obviously we've got another triangle to go, so it's not immediately imminent. But come the new square, I want to use the new bobbins. Which means I need to reload all my bobbins. Which will probably mean the simplest answer is to load whatever string is left on these bobbins onto the new bobbins. Because that's the easiest way to make sure you've got the right number and all of those kind of aspects. But at the same time, I want to use the new bobbins because I like the new bobbins. But at the same time, I don't really want to rewind all the bobbins because it takes ages. So, well, it doesn't take ages. It just takes long enough that you don't really want to do it. And the obvious answer would be to change over as you run out of string. But that's too obvious. And I don't like the idea of mixed bobbins. Not quite sure what I will do come the end of the square. Reloading bobbins is really not an exciting thing to do. One, two, three, four, five. Let's put you up there, out the way. There we go. Stop coming undone. So, that's a fair bit done. Right, let's push them down, because that's a thing. Now, 10 to midnight. Do I start the next section? Blimey, has there been an earthquake that big? Sorry, I've just heard that there's been an 8.0 earthquake. I mean, to be honest, if you ever follow the earthquake monitor, which I used to do quite obsessively, there are some really big quakes all over the world that don't get reported. So let me quickly have a pull up of that, and I can show you. Make a bit of room because I've got boxes everywhere. So let me have a pull this up. So let me show you this. Hopefully you now see what I see, which is a seismon. And what it shows you is red ones are really recent, yellow ones are lesser ones, and so the size of the circle determined how big it was, and the pink dots are over a couple of weeks. It does kind of explain it up here. So the yellow ones are kind of older, but the size of the circle tells you how big it is. The red ones are recent. And here you can see a 7.6 in the Cayman Islands. So what you can do is you can actually click on it and you can go and have a look. That's not the link I am used to seeing. Seismon in this activity. So this usually tells you they've changed it. It used to be you clicked on it and you could see the data of how far down it was, how many they'd had in the last, few hours. So you can see if they had like baby shocks first and bigger shocks later and repeat shocks and all of those kind of things, which is slightly disappointing that they've changed it. Because it doesn't really tell you about the time range. It doesn't really show the data anymore. I mean, it was always a little crude. So in fact, let me go back here and say, and use this version. This is the original version. I don't want to. No, I don't want to. I want to use this version. So now you can click on here. This is what I'm used to. So now you can see that they've had like a 4, 6.4.3, 6.7. So they've actually had 3 earthquakes in a number of hours. Now, obviously, there was one at like 6 o'clock yesterday that was nearly a 5. Oh no, that was a week ago. So they had one at 4.3 at 2:30 in the morning. And then here we are, late at night. Obviously this is more of my time than their time, but kind of 20 minutes ago they had a 6.7. So it's interesting how that shows it as a 6.7, but this screen is that screen reports it as 6.7. So someone said 8. I don't know where they've got 8 from. But yeah, the seismon thing is really quite an interesting thing because, for example, not that we in Britain, you can see in we in England don't suffer these things, but for example, you can see here that Greece has had a couple today. I just find it kind of interesting because you look at the fact that it's red. Shut up, piss off, don't like the new one. You can see that there's been actually quite a few earthquakes today, but this is the only one we'll hear about, right? If at all. So, and earthquake headlines. See, there you go. It's claiming an 8, but we've seen the data that says the maximum 6.7. So that's kind of interesting. See there, it says 7.6, but they're not reporting 7.6 on their data, which is slightly interesting. So it was off the coast, which helps, I guess, a little bit. But I do find it kind of interesting that this is not including that, and he says 7.6. I mean, it's still bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. But it's the fact that, I know it has reported an 8 there, but you see, where's the 7.6 come from? It doesn't seem to quite tie up at the moment. But it's the same time, so that's really weird that it doesn't tie up. It usually does. It usually is very accurate. That's definitely interesting. It's interesting that it doesn't. It's interesting that it doesn't show it more accurately. It usually does. Yeah, this is something I like. I used to spend a lot of time to see, what's had earthquakes, because obviously, for some reason, I've always had a bit of a volcano fascination, because obviously it's the insides of the earth leaking out. And, it's quite clear if you look at this where the plates of the world are, right? I mean, it's not that there aren't other earthquakes. As you can see, there's dots spotted all over the place. But nearly any earthquake, chances are it's on a plate, and it shows you where the plates are by where all of the the recent earthquake activity is. So I like this for that reason. I find it interesting. I find the landmass moving ideas interesting, because obviously, technically the world today is not the same shape it was as the day I was born. Can we measure it? Technically we can, but it's not like, I know Australia disappeared off the face of the globe in my lifetime or something. But it is the moving of the land masses. It is that kind of. I once had a little glass globe with a globe in it that kind of had what the world would have looked like, a few thousand years ago. And so the land masses for Europe were joined, and it wasn't quite all the same shape. It was either that was just a real botch job, one or the other. But I always found that really interesting. So I thought I'd share this. So there you go. It shows that, it had an 8. But it is underwater. Now, underwater can be bad because it can create tsunamis. So, let's not pretend that that's not a problem. But it's interesting, it says 7.6 there, not 8. As I say, normally it's very accurate because, well, they've got the raw data and it's just a script. So it's not like someone has to manually type it in and hasn't got around to it yet. So there you go. There's a strange thing that you may not have seen before. You can monitor all of the earthquakes in the world. Keep an eye on the rest of the world and see how they're doing. So, do I start this section? This is the question. I think I'm going to, because it is an easier section. So let's extract you. Right, so let's do a bit more. Because a stream I was listening to, someone just said that there'd been an 8.0 earthquake, and indeed there has been. So we were just looking up how that went and where it was, and because I'm a sad fart, and it's one of the things that I like looking at. As I say, I find the idea of the world leaking into itself interesting. Trying to sort some bobbins out here because this seems to be a bit confused, because that seems to come from that. Right. So, you are done with. You are mostly done with, but not entirely. You are to be used later, so let's pile you on top. You are to be used later, and you are not round your pin, because I've managed to undo that. That's fine. So we will push you down a bit more for strength and put you on top. Because we don't need you yet. We don't need you yet. We will need you imminently. And we need you. So, take those out. Hopefully that answers how we suddenly appeared on earthquakes and stuff. I mean, of all of my segues, you know, it's fairly normal for me to divert onto strange conversations, so it's not too unusual for me. But earthquakes is a new topic, I do agree. Yeah, and I think it's like we were saying earlier about how, you know, if you've got one hobby, it's really easy for it to grow into other hobbies. You can have a casual, natural interest in something, and then suddenly you find yourself interested in a whole load more things that... but I think one of the things for me is, as someone who doesn't travel, I choose not to. It's not that I can't, I just choose not to. I find it fascinating that there is so much of the world that I can see and follow without leaving my house. So there are volcano webcams. You can watch volcanoes. You can keep an eye on the earthquake monitor and look it up and, you know, keep an eye on how that's going. Because they'll have aftershocks. If they've had an 8.0, there will be aftershocks, just as there were pre-shocks, right? And it can be interesting to follow what happens and how it works out, and, you know, because as I said, you know, you could see there where the fault line, the plate lines are in the world. And I like the fact that, you know, when you were a kid, you were told that there were plate lines, and you just kind of went, yes, miss, whatever, right? But when you can see them by the fact of plotting where all the earthquakes have been in the last 2 weeks, and there are enough dots to outline all of the plates around the globe, and the fact that in the last 2 weeks there have been enough earthquakes that the world has many dots on it and circles, but you hear so few of them. And to be fair, you know, there was a 0.5 earthquake in the sea somewhere. No one's going to bother reporting that, and I get that. But at the same time, clusters of earthquakes can have an effect on things. Watching the aftershocks, knowing that it affects other things, when one plate moves, the other end moves too, kind of deal. It's not as simple as you know, and obviously I've got a bit of a fascination for volcanoes because the Earth is leaking out, and earthquakes and volcanoes are quite closely linked because obviously volcanoes are usually where the plates are again, but also not necessarily. I mean, you know, it's not a guaranteed thing, but you know, where there was a join and it's pulling apart, well, you're creating a weakness, and well, potentially stuff leaks out, right? And it's just one of those things. I think is that, like geology, about how the rocks are formed, and the earthquakes pull into that because where the plates have shifted, rock will now be in a different position. It will have fractured some. It will have pushed some under others. It could have pulled some out from underneath. There was a guy I watched a video of, I think it was a YouTube video. He said he really liked opal, and what he did was he made some. He made a beaker and he put the right shit in it, and you then had to mix it with the right stuff and boil it for a bit and do this to it and do that to it. He then put it in his beaker, and he said, so, and he said, you know, as you let it settle and cool for a month, he had, like, you know, a chunk at the bottom of his beaker, very clearly opal. Now, he didn't know how to get it out, but other than smashing the beaker, I guess. But he was making it, and you know, we all know that, for example, diamonds are compressed coal, which kind of farts with your head a little bit, because you can't just go and take some coal out your fire and squish it. But in essence, it is, you know, potential diamonds. And, you know, but you need a bit more than just heat. You know, I think you need heat as well and stuff. But it is interesting how you can have, I mean, if you got the Quantux, seeing quartz in the ground, natural live quartz in the ground where it grew, is quite reasonable. You can see that. And sometimes it's hard to remember that all these precious things grew in the ground by its own free choice. Humans have denoted the worth of it. You know, diamonds being the obvious example. You know, a small diamond is worth a kind of fortune. But realistically, it didn't cost anyone to make it. The cost has purely been because it's not common and because people like it. It's yeah. Oops. Nearly threw the pin across the room. And I'd like to say to all my British viewers, why aren't you in bed? I'm very pleased to see you, but you should be in bed. It is late and all that. Silly constellation, I haven't fed mine yet either, so they would be interested in that idea. Currently asleep, which is them at their best. I'm out of Coke though. Drink that quicker than I thought. Considering earlier I didn't drink my Coke, and I've just polished off a pint of it. And for all the people, yes, I will be up at about 4 o'clock needing a wee, so. You don't get to be 50 and not, so. Not if you've consumed anything after kind of 9 o'clock, you need a wee by 4. Although it's been better the last few days. Speaking of which, I'm going to go and grab me a drink. Be right back. Back again. So, now I have some Coke. We can keep going. Right, let's shove these round here, like that. Oh. I need to take these out because this is looking funky stuff. And you need to sod off. Right, so. You're done. Pardon me. Fresh frizzy Coke at its worst. Feels like my back needs to crack, but it doesn't want to. Never mind. being British, we Brits find farts funny. Ridiculously funny. And the guy that I normally watch stream PoE is currently doing a sponsored stream. And it's for some mobile MMO cutesy bullshit thing. And he's just gone, did you just see that? And it's like, oh, I'm thinking, what, see what? Because obviously I'm looking at my lace pillow, and so it's like, no, I didn't see that. And he goes, did you just see that? The boss just farted. Its primary move is to fart. And I haven't seen it, but already I'm laughing, you know. Ah, dear, we British are sad. Hey, Nautical, I hear rumours that getting into your fair country no longer charges you money on the Severn Bridge. I missed that. I missed that they stopped doing that. I mean, I never had a problem with paying to get into Wales, right? All the jokes aside about how, you know, you don't need to pay to get out because you're too in much of a hurry, all that kind of stuff, right? The bridge over the Severn was a big bridge, and, you know, keeping it safe and structural, having gone across it in a coach where we all had to sit on... Please picture this, right? We're a coach of very early teenagers, so I'm talking, you know, 12, 13, right? And we're going on a trip to Wales to look at castles. I love castles, that's fine, wanted to go. So obviously there's a coach full of kids. We get to the Severn Bridge, and they advise the driver that the winds are really high, so to prevent issues, we all had to sit on one side of the bus on the laps of your fellow children to help stop the bus flipping over. Not kind of a good deal. I mean, in this day and age, there'd be, you know, uproar. But I never felt bad about paying, because I remember that day and the fact that they let the coach through, and that obviously the strain of the bridge in the weather would be a real thing. You know, it's you know, it's not a, hey, we're going to tax you because you exist charge. You've got the cost of the bridge. And so I never really felt bad about paying it. I mean, I dread to think how much it would be, you know, today if they still had it. And maybe that would be more of an issue. But I don't remember it being ridiculous. But given the cost of everything these days is kind of ridiculous. Maybe it would be now. But yeah, I was surprised that I'd not heard about it, considering how close to it I live, you know. I mean, the county I live in butts up against most of Wales, so you know, we're neighbours, frankly. Yeah, you mentioned you're the further side of it, but I mean, as the crow flies, I'm probably only 20, 30 miles from the border, if that. I mean, I haven't actually looked, to be honest. Hang on, let me do a Google Maps. Hang on. Google Maps. No, don't allow. Oh, whatever. Well, you see, that's the difference. Is that, Wales is not, next. I mean, just because Wales is next door doesn't mean you are. But let me. So, sorry, let me move a few things. Right, so that's where I am. If I zoom out a bit. Now, I mean, because there isn't a huge line saying this is Wales, but I'm going to go that dotted line is probably Wales. So if I said, how far is it? So I do. Stay on web. Hang on. Directions. I don't want to open Google's Maps, Transit and Food. No, I just... Starting point. Stay object. So, according to this, Monmouth Golf Club, which looks to be approximately the nearest point of Wales that was pickable at a rush from where I am. While the route is not as the crow flies, the most direct route, hang on, that looks like it would be, is that shorter? Is 34.5 miles. And would take me 55 minutes. Now, obviously, if you go to Pembroke or something, that's going to take a heck of a lot longer. But, technically Wales is, say, it's not that far. It's just, so probably to step on a chunk of Wales would take a lot less time. But in practice, visiting somewhere of worthiness of visiting would probably take about an hour. But I'm really not that far away. Considering the next major town over is 10 miles away, 36 miles is really not that far. It's just awkward to get to from here, I think, is the short answer. But it's not that awkward. I mean, to be fair, the M5's half a mile away, but not the on-ramp. And that is often the way. Country roads are not the fast travelling methods, and so things do seem a lot bigger because it takes a long time to get anywhere, just because, it's full of hairpin bends and thin bits where you got to reverse 3 miles because of a tract coming the other way. So, it's so yeah, it does make it seem bigger. but it's still not exactly tiny. I mean, well, compared to the rest of the world, it's pretty tiny. But, I mean, it's not as small as the Isle of Wight. To give you an idea, as a child, we went, well, at the end of junior school, our school took us all to the Isle of Wight. We went and did some geographical shit. We did some random things, right? I was born in Somerset, love, you can't scare me. But as a child, so I'm talking a 10-year-old child, maybe even slightly less, I walked from the top of the Isle of Wight to the bottom of the Isle of Wight in an afternoon. That's a small place. You know, and you took a school coach load full of children, so 30 little whiny, snotty brats, and we all walked in our wellies from top to bottom. We walked from Newport to St Catherine's Point. Bear in mind I was 10, that's 40 years ago, you know, memory's a little bit rough. But we literally walked from top to bottom. That's a small place. As an adult, a company I worked for decided to throw a Christmas party on the Isle of Wight, and I was like, fucking excellent. And boyfriend at the moment and I went. And as we didn't know it, because no one had bothered to mention it to us, that when we were there, one of the things that work had decided to do was, I won't say it wasn't a treasure hunt, but you had to kind of go round, drive round, go to various points, get various information, and there was a distance and a time bonus, right? And because we'd all been encouraged to car share, basically the idea is 4 people a car. The prize was designed for 4 people. And the girl that I shared an office with, she had volunteered to go in a company car, so we went with her, so there were 4 of us in the car. But come this moment, they announced the kind of treasure hunt, and we were like, excellent, so let's go. I'm not in the mood. Everyone's leaving. Yeah, but I'm not really in the mood. Well, fortunately, because I was an employee, I was allowed to drive the car. So I had to persuade her to uncheck that I was insured. Got the car, so we started out considerably later than everybody else. We got back first, we'd done the shortest distance, and we got all the questions right. We won. It was cool. We did a little bit of and that's kind of the problem, isn't it? It's the, you know, so for example, I could come visit you, but spending hours at 20 mile an hour fighting, you know, tractors and idiots just takes the fun out of it. Kind of puts the shine on it. I mean, if you lived off a big A road off the motorway, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not scared by some country lanes, but the problem, as you've said, is the idiots and the 20 mile an hour because of the idiots, you know. It's usually easier to do at night, but then if they haven't got their lights on, you're going to end up dead, so that's probably not a plan, you know. Because at least with the lights, you've got a better chance of seeing them coming. Study time. There we go. So, there we go. Yeah, I don't speak Welsh. I'm the first, but oh come on, I barely speak English. But we do. I mean, there's a part of me that does respect that. You speak Celtic, Welsh. And that shouldn't die out. That shouldn't be and I mean, I'm one of those people. So, for example, if I went to live in France, I would expect to learn and only speak French. I would not expect to go into a shop and go, "Oi, Gov, give me some chips." I would. Hello, Addict Dragon. Welcome to the channel. So I'm a strong believer that if you go to a country, especially to live, if you go and visit, you should try and speak the language. You will butcher it terribly, but you can at least try. At least show some form of willing and, ask in their language in your best accent, do you speak English? Because, I suck. I have, it's always bugged me when people go to a foreign country and just shout. That is not the answer. Don't speak slow. Don't shout. Just speak clearly and don't be an arse about it. When you go to live there, you should try and fit in. And so when I hear about like all the British people who've moved abroad and they go into like little expat villages where they ship in all the British food that they miss and they only speak English, and that makes me disappointed because you chose to go and live in someone else's country and then you kind of got the mood because you did so. So for Wales, I strongly agree that the Welsh language should exist. The Welsh language should prevail. And if I go to Wales, arguably I should try and learn Welsh. Now, admittedly, nearly you all speak English, so I'm, very fortunate at that. But at the same time, surely it is in my interest to try. Although I could not. I mean, one of the things that has always astounded me about Welsh, I worked with a Welsh girl, and I remember her sister phoned, and she had a conversation in Welsh. And listening to her talk to her sister, obviously I understood literally none of it. So it wasn't like, a bit like German where I can understand a few phrases and maybe get a hint of what's going on. Didn't understand a single word. But the one thing that fascinated me was how you pronounce all of those bits with all the and all the rest of it without flemming up, Addict Dragon, me too. I speak English and really awful English and gibberish. I can do gibberish. Of course they do. I remember upsetting some German students on a train in London. I was on the tube and I was sitting there and these German students were jabbering away. My German's terrible. Oh, dear Lord, is it terrible. I can do sarcasm, I'll agree with that. And bitchy. I'm also fluent in bitchy. But I listened to these kids and they were having a real dig at someone on the train. And although my German was terrible, I could tell who they were speaking about and that they were being really rude. And so, just as I was leaving because I was getting off before them, I bid them a good day and hoped they had a pleasant time in our country, in German, and walked off. And the look on their faces was hysterical. Admittedly, I could have said a lot more. I mean, to be honest, sarcasm is a natural habit, I think. If you work in IT, sarcasm is, or frankly any kind of support area, so nursing, any of that, sarcasm comes with it. because, well, otherwise you just can't survive your job, right? And there's nothing wrong with a good bit of healthy sarcasm. It's... I also, of course, speak swear words. Many of them. All of them, in fact. And no phone, duck is not the word I meant. But I think it is one of those things where so many of us... I can imagine that. Having been a patient on many occasions, I definitely understand that. You've got to survive somehow. And, you know, like they always say, especially in healthcare, you can't help but like some of your patients. You can't help but feel a sense when maybe their treatment doesn't go to plan, right? And it doesn't matter whether their plan results in termination, or whether their plan just means that they are now going to have a major difference in life. It is hard. Just like I imagine with being a vet, dealing with pets and their last moments, or making life-changing decisions and operations on them, it can't be easy. It really can't. And with all the best will in the world, there'll be some patients and animals that people look at, you know, that you end up treating, and you kind of go, oh, that's a shame. And then there are others that truly almost break you. And the dark humour helps with that. It really does. I've worked in some places that have broken me, and hence I suffer from depression. And as a result of which, I have a fairly dark humour. Oh, that's a shame. I mean, there's always a couple of people that you could think of around the universe that, should they demise, miss is not the word that would apply. People would probably cheer, right? My mother was one of them. But at the same time, there are people that you can't help but feel a loss for, even though you've met them for 10 minutes, right? I know that when I was in hospital a couple of years ago, hearing that the woman next to me had a couple of weeks to live was not pleasant, because, of course, it is, and because it's your job, you've got to keep going. The family can go away and mourn. The family can say goodbye. The family, you know, they've got to deal with it too, but they get to deal with it for one person. If you work in a ward of final moments, you have to deal with that every day, many potentially times in a day. Now, some of those people, as I said, oh, it's a shame, and you kind of move on. But there's always going to be someone that just somehow is the right person to you, and that whether you've known them 5 minutes or 5 years, you have a sense of attachment, and should major things happen to them, you feel the grief. And I know that when Charlie, the little dog in my icon, passed, all of the vet clinic that I use up here felt it. They really felt it. And it's not because he was a frequent flyer. He was always very keen to stay. So every time he ever went to the vets, he didn't want to come home. He wanted to go out back because, well, they fed him chicken and rice and made a big fuss of him because they loved him. But when he died, they were floored. And to cap it all, he had sadly been put to sleep by another vet due to being in Bristol Hospital for animals. And the Bristol Hospital had done absolutely nothing other than charge me a small fortune. He was in there 4 days. They charged me £1,500 and they didn't even feed him during the 4 days. So that was a lot of money for not a lot of, because they didn't give him any drugs, they didn't do any of the procedures that he went down for. They literally just had him in a cage and charged me £1,500 for that and for the cremation. What I got back was basically a plastic bag. And it cost me a small fortune. I think the actual cremation cost me about £400. At the time, my vet charged you about £250, and when your animal goes, obviously and you pick cremation, they give you a little carved wooden box with a little brass plaque on it with their name. Yeah. Anyway, Brown passed a couple of weeks after Charlie, and I got a little box with Brown on it. And I asked the vets if there was any chance they could contact the company who did the boxing, and whether, for a fee, obviously, they would transfer Charlie into a box. And they phoned them up and went, yeah, not a problem. They've said they'll do that. That's fine. And to be honest, the cost was irrelevant to me. I didn't care if I had to pay full kind of cremation price. I would have paid it. I wanted Charlie to have dignity in his, it sounds stupid. I mean, he's gone, but I wanted him to have a little bit of dignity. A freaking plastic bag is not that, right? Anyway, when I bought it in, there was a guy who was on the vet's reception. And if I say Klinger from MASH, anyone who's ever seen MASH knows who I mean by Klinger. This guy was the spitting image in every sense. He wasn't wearing a dress, but he was gayer than a gay thing, and I was proud for him. He clearly was happy with it, and I loved him to pieces. But I showed him the box because I kind of went, I bought Charlie in to have him moved into a wooden box. He looked in the bag, because I had the bag in a bag kind of thing. He looked in there and it was, oh darling, that's terrible. Oh, no wonder. I never paid for that box. I never paid for the decanting. They paid for it for me because they felt so badly for me that after all of the money that I'd paid the Bristol lot, they'd done nothing for him other than put him down when, frankly, that was not necessarily the right decision. It was borderline. I'm not going to say that it was flat wrong. Charlie was repeatedly getting pneumonia because he was inhaling things and then it would set an infection off in his lungs. And clearly it made him very ill when he did it. And we tried a lot of things to fix him. So he had to, originally he had to have pills. And Charlie was very good about taking things from me if I told him he had to have them. But he got to a point where he really didn't want them anymore. So we changed to injections. The injections then formed ulcers under his skin, which then became open wounds. They then had to do things to that. That then got an infection, and I laughed at the vet. So he had like a little life jacket covering all the wounds that they'd cleaned out and stitched together. And I came home and, well, it was dripping is all I need to say to that. So I took him to the vet with it dripping in my car, stinking the car out. Got to the vet, waited in the room, and they were going, oh, we've just got a new mop. And I went, we'll keep the old one for a bit. Why? Because you're going to need to wipe the floor and then you'll want to chuck it. Okay. Anyway, we went into the vet's room. Can we open the window? I'm not sure I can take this. Dude, you're a vet. You must see worse than this. I've just had to sit for like 20 minutes in the car with it and sit in your waiting room. The poor little dog has had to live with this for a few hours. So, I think we need to suck up here. And I laughed at him for being a wuss. But I had to open the window because it was getting to him. Because he did stink a bit. And he was like, oh, well, we'll have to take him out back and sedate him. And I said, no, you won't. No, you won't. He can't feel that. I can tell you that now. If you want to open a couple of stitches and put in a drainage tube, which is what they were doing, he won't. He'll be good. And he was. And they were astounded because I knew my dog. I knew my dog very well. And Charlie was such a good boy. When he was a little puppy, he was an evil little shit with teeth. But he grew into be such a good little boy. And it's kind of weird because Rory has quite a few of the mannerisms that Charlie has. And I have actually occasionally called him Charlie as a result. Because although Rory is very short-furred and Charlie had to be groomed to stay reasonable because he didn't like his fur being brushed very much. They do have he has so many similar characteristics. And it's the first time I've met a dog with so many of those characteristics that he literally almost does exactly what Charlie would have done. And so it's quite easy to look after Rory because, well, he's turning, he was a bit of a shit when he was a puppy too. But, he is a good boy. His crackhead sister, not quite so much. Anyway, I have done quite a lot of my triangle today, when you consider. I was looking at the picture. So if you take the picture, she says getting the picture up in front of you. Yesterday, we left it, we'd done this bit here, the cloth stitch, and this rose ground. So today we've done these 2 bits, these 4 bits cloth stitch, all of this ground stitch, and obviously the rose ground. So we've done a lot today. And obviously there is every good reason to think that we will finish this triangle tomorrow. And likely start the next one, which will complete the square. So we are doing really, really well. I feel more pleased with myself. I also feel more pleased that I got to do a later night one, so that some of the American side of the world and other places have a bit more chance of joining in, because obviously quite often I stream during their working day or whatever. So I'm just looking at something that looks a bit weird. This looks a bit weird. I think it's just a tension thing. I'm confident it's just a tension thing. She says, desperately looking at the picture for mistakes. Oh look, there's a couple. There's a couple here that I forgot to twist, even though I swear I was twisting them all. I swear I twisted them all. But, to be honest, yeah, I mean, as I said, as we all know, as I've always said, the quickest way to find a mistake is to post it on the internet. But, looking at this, as much as I can, other than, let me show you, so let me zoom in, and we need to get up a little bit, and then I will make it big on my screen so I can actually see what I'm pointing at. So, if you look at that in a reasonable resolution, these aren't twisted and should be, these aren't twisted and should be. These shouldn't look so much like diamonds, but I'm confident that that is just a tension issue, because obviously it twists before and after. So technically it's right. I think it's just a bit of tension around that. Other than that, the only other major flaw that I have potentially seen is up here. There looks to be a looser thread here. Look, there's something weird going on kind of here. This loose thread here, look, see, where it obviously got caught on something, or I didn't manage to pull it tight. But other than that, you know, now I've got it up in really big resolution in front of me. you know, nothing else is screaming out of me that I've screwed it up yet. I mean, you know, time is young. And as I say, you only really know once you pull all the pins out. Because, well, that is truly the sign of everything. But if you... Oh, look, there's another one of the not twisted threads there. But really, in the grand scheme of shit, you know, you've got to get kind of close to look. So, I mean, it's annoying. As I was saying about mistakes, it's annoying. I'm trying not to make them. You know, I'm consciously doing things, but it kind of looks all right. Kind of looks all right. Really does. I mean, you know. So, yeah, I'm really not displeased with that. So yes, let me just check the picture I just took is of reasonable quality before I hide everything away. Yeah, I can use that. Right. So, it's only 1 o'clock. It's not too bad. I appreciate you all coming today. I'm going to close up for the day. So yes, it's not been a very long stream, I appreciate that, but I have tried to, you know, come help our non-British cousins have better access to the stream should they wish to come, and I will try and do more of these. It's especially easier during the summer when it's, you know, it's not dark as a badger's butt out there. But yes, Saturdays are the most likely day for it because that and Fridays. Friday nights and Saturday nights are the best times for that because obviously normally I've got work in the morning. Thursday nights are definitely bad because I have to get up even earlier on a Friday. But unless I've got the day off, in which case any day goes really, I guess. But I appreciate you coming. If you didn't get a notice, if you're a follower and you didn't get a notice from Discord, !Discord while I'm online will answer you to how to join the Discord, which I purely use as a notification option. And that does also tell you when I go live. If, you know, enough people community up there and start chatting and having conversations, we can, you know, build a bit more of a community there too. I haven't been posting the pictures there because I post pictures and stuff up on Instagram and Threads and so on. But I also put these videos up on YouTube so you can watch them again later. I mean, Twitch keeps them for a while, but I also put them up on YouTube, so the whole start to finish many hours of death, doom and destruction. There are videos in which I cry, so, you know, frankly, it's been a bit of a roller coaster already, and we're only a quarter of the way through. So, you know, we're getting there slowly, and you know, we've always estimated that it's about a square a month, so we've got a few months to go. So I will be around. It will be good if you can join me. The more of you who join me and talk to me, the better it is for me. I mentioned it earlier in that it seems that when my mouth is moving, my fingers move better. So I appreciate someone to talk to while I do it. Of course, it is not a slur on your character, should you not be able to. But I do appreciate it when you can come. So if you wish to come, give us a follow. Maybe join the Discord so you get a better notification than Twitch that doesn't always bother. And with any luck, I shall see you, well, technically later today, but tomorrow, on Sunday, depending on where you are. That could be near a Monday if you're in Australia, so I don't know. Anyway, later. That's a definite answer. Later. Good night, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the stream. Bye-bye.